For years, the story of Singapore's property market has been pretty simple. Up, up, and, well, more up. It's been one of the hottest tickets in town, right? But what if I told you that fever might finally be breaking? Is the relentless climb finally over? Okay, let's get into it because the numbers for the start of 2026 are telling a very, very interesting story. And it all starts right here with this number, negative 0.1%. Yeah, you heard that right. After nearly 7 years of non-stop growth, HDB resale prices, that's where about 80% of Singaporeans live, actually went down. Now look, I know it's not a market crash, but in a market like Singapore's, even a tiny little dip like this, that's a massive headline. But hold on, at the exact same time that prices supposedly dropped, a single HDB flat over at Sky Terrace at Dawson sold for a jaw-dropping $1.7 million. That is an all-time record, not just for a five-roomer, but for any HDB resale flat, ever. So prices are falling, but records are being smashed? How does that work? And that, right there, is the big question. You've got a price drop on one hand and a new price record on the other, all in the same 3 months? It sounds completely contradictory. So what is actually going on? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack. All right, first up, let's talk about that headline-grabbing number, the minus 0.1%, the so-called crash. Let's see what's really behind it. Now, what's really interesting is this didn't just come out of nowhere. It wasn't some sudden shock. If you look here, you can see price growth had been slowing down for 5 straight quarters. It went from a small rise to basically flat, and then finally just tipped over into this tiny negative. The brakes have been slowly, gently applied for over a year. And to really put this into perspective, you have to go all the way back to the second quarter of 2019 to find the last time this happened. That's nearly 7 years. We're talking about breaking a 26-quarter streak of prices either going up or staying the same. So yeah, this isn't just a random number, it's a real shift in the market's momentum. Okay, fine, but that still doesn't explain the $1.7 million flat, does it? To get our heads around that, we need to look past the average and see what's happening at the very top of the market, which is a totally different story. Because while the overall market is cooling, the premium end is still absolutely sizzling. We talked about that record breaker at Dawson. But get this, on top of that, an incredible 412 flats sold for $1 million or more in just the first 3 months of 2026. So demand for those prime locations, the newer flats, the bigger units, it's clearly still incredibly strong. So this is the core puzzle, isn't it? How can the average price be going down while the top of the market is on fire, setting new records? It seems like it shouldn't be possible. Well, the answer isn't about demand. It's all about supply. And yep, the short answer is this. A huge wave of new supply has finally hit the shore, and it's changing the entire game. This chart right here shows what everyone's calling the MOP Tsunami. MOP, of course, is the minimum occupation period, the 5 years HDB owners have to live in their flat before they can sell it. In 2025, about 7,000 flats hit that 5-year mark. But this year, in 2026, look at that jump. It nearly doubles to over 13,400. That is a massive injection of relatively new flats hitting the resale market all at once. And the result is just simple economics, really. For the last few years, sellers held all the cards. Now, with thousands more newer flats on the market, the power is starting to shift. Buyers have way more to choose from, which means they have more bargaining power. And that's what's taking the heat out of the overall prices. And you know what? This cooling trend isn't just an HDB thing. It seems like even folks at the very top of the property ladder are starting to feel a bit of a chill. Just take a look at the private market. Sure, condos and apartments saw a small 1% bump, but look at landed properties. We're talking about bungalows, terrace houses. Their prices actually fell by 1.8%. So this tells us it's not just one segment. There's a broader rebalancing happening across the board. So why are even the wealthiest buyers getting a little hesitant? Well, analysts are pointing to all the uncertainty in the world, things like the conflict in the Middle East. Let's be real, when you're about to drop millions of dollars on a house, that kind of global instability makes you pause and think twice. And that hesitation is enough to soften prices at the very top. So, you put all these pieces of the puzzle together, the tiny HDB dip, the record-breaking sales, the drop in landed prices, and what you start to see is a picture of the market's brand new reality. And this new reality has a name: balanced normalization. It's a fancy term, but what it really means is this isn't a crash, it's a correction. It's a deliberate shift. After that wild post-pandemic boom, all the government policies to ramp up supply are finally kicking in. The market's moving from red-hot and seller-driven to something a lot more stable, and maybe just more sustainable.
And hey, don't just take my word for it, the experts agree. As Ms. Wang Xiu Ying from PropNext puts it, the market is simply adjusting towards a more sustainable phase. The key word there is sustainable. This is seen as a healthy thing, not a reason to panic.
And amid all this change, the official advice from the government, from both HDB and URA, has been super consistent and clear. Be smart with your money. Exercise financial prudence. They're basically reminding everyone, hey, the world is an uncertain place. Be careful with those big home loans. It's a signal that even as things stabilize, there are still risks out there. Which, of course, brings us to the big final question that's probably on your mind. What does all this mean for you? Is now the time to finally jump in? Now look, we're not here to give you financial advice, but what the data shows is a new reality for anyone looking to buy. First, that crazy price growth we've seen for years, it's clearly slowing. Second, there are just more flats coming online, both brand new BTOs and resale units. And third, all that choice means the power is shifting. You, the buyer, have more room to negotiate. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Is this cool down just a tiny blip before the rise of the next $1 million HDB? Or is this what a balanced, more sustainable property market in Singapore is actually supposed to look like? Maybe this is just the beginning of a whole new normal. What do you think?